Hey everyone, it's Sevi. AFK Journey has officially released, so you may have already seen a bunch of people talking about it. Fortunately, I got an opportunity to take an early look at the game and share my thoughts with you on it. Though this video is sponsored, I'm keeping my opinions 100% honest, so if you want to know more about this game, keep watching. AFK Journey is positioning itself as an idle game, but with an ethereal fantasy RPG element to it, plus distinctive visuals and intricate gameplay mechanics. It's compatible on both mobile and PC, and it's easy to play on both with its side-scrolling elements. It's also basically a successor to AFK Arena. Now, I've never actually played AFK Arena before, but if you have, you'll definitely see some familiar heroes and mechanics. So in this video, I'll be covering my first impressions on the game's visuals, world and story, characters, gacha, combat, and more. There are some things I won't be touching on, like the guilds aspect, which I wasn't able to explore that much, but I hope I can still help you decide whether or not this game is worth checking out for you. Let's begin! I'm gonna start off with its visuals because I think it's really one of the game's strong suits. Its canvas-like art style is immediately captivating for how it looks like you're looking into a storybook. I personally find it very refreshing to look at since I spend a lot of time in anime-style games, and I also commonly see games in the 3D model style. Anyway, I think AFK Journey's palette is vibrant yet cohesive, as it's not overly saturated to the point of being garish or gaudy. And up close, you can see brushstroke-like shading that gives the world some nice texture. Anyway, since I really like the art style here, I actually wish I could play more zoomed in. If you're standing still, you can zoom in with a mouse wheel, but as soon as you start moving, it zooms out again, and things end up looking so small. Like, I just want to appreciate the details of the cottages and live vicariously through these citizens. So despite the overhead view exposing a beautiful landscape, I feel a bit locked out of appreciating the finer details up close. The world's overhead POV gives a wide world feeling, though its traversal isn't fully open world, as you still mainly conform to paths and can't climb walls, for example. But let's talk about the world building itself next. The world's name is Esperia, and it's pretty much your typical Ren Fair Western fantasy. Castles, cottages, vineyards, villages, ladies, lords, knights, the whole shebang. On one hand, it's very digestible and easy to get into if you just want to be in a fantasy environment, and the music complements it with a similar storybook fantasy vibe that's actually quite lovely. But on the other hand, if you're looking for something more unusual or diverse, this might not be to your liking. I think that the environment and world is helped a lot by the art style, because in a more typical art direction, this world would almost certainly draw me in less. Despite its somewhat predictable setting, it has a lot of whimsical bits to it. I mean, your familiars are apparently talking hamsters. Yeah, plural, Chippy and Hammy. Anyway, we'll see a lot more of that whimsy when we check out the characters. You get a fully voiced story.
Is this how you respond when someone has no time to meet with you?
But I'll admit I skipped through some things so I could just get through the game faster and see more of it. And yes, there is a skip button. But also the scenes and dialogue I went through in the first few hours didn't really pique my interest. Perhaps the most interesting thing that you learn right away is that your character has lost their memory, and it's not the first time either. Maybe the story does pick up and get more interesting further in, but I'm not super compelled by it so far. At least we run into several attractive characters, so I certainly don't mind moving it forward to see who else we meet. One nice thing I discovered, by the way, is that doing side quests can actually reward you with cosmetics, which definitely gives me more motivation to do them. Now then, let's take a look at these gacha-able characters, and some, again, are from AFK Arena too. And these characters come in all shapes and sizes, and species. There are four main factions of characters. Lightbearers, which are usually human, typical fantasy character stuff. There's Graveborns, who are like the spooky undead type. The Wilders, who have some nature, forest, elf features. And the Maulers, who are buff. I mean, I guess they have a lot of cat or dog-like features too. Anyway, these factions are relevant to combat, but they also give themes to their appearances and designs. I like the character design for the most part. They're not entirely crazy or anything, and I do think some designs are a bit plain, and there are also some that I don't think are quite suited to their rarity. Like this Rowan guy kind of looks like an A rank, but he's actually an S rank. And then some of the A rank Wilders and Graveborns go so hard with their designs. Like, check out this Birdman and this Viper skeleton guy. So, maybe it's just the Lightbearers that are too vanilla for my taste, but this girl gets a horse, so good for her. Overall, there's a nice variety of shapes and styles that make them quite distinct, which I very much appreciate since it adds a lot more character to the world as well. Alright, next let's talk about the combat, which I'm sure many of you are curious about. The battlefield is a hex grid, and you basically have 5 characters that you can place on your side to control their starting positions. You place them down, and when you're happy with it, begin the battle and they will start operating on their own. They have their own skill sets that's pretty much on auto, but they also have ultimates that you can operate manually. When you see their icons flaming, they are ready to unleash those ultimates, and you can wait to activate it to improve the timing for a more effective usage. There are also some fights with environmental obstacles like walls and half walls, or fields with explosive barrels that you can detonate manually. But also, if you don't want to bother with all that, you can full auto most battles and it will perform quite well in any of the battle modes, especially for getting through the story, which is obviously very convenient and part of the idle game aspect. So what factors can give you advantages in battle? Well, remember the factions from earlier? They're also strong against each other, rock, paper, scissors style. Aside from factions, the characters also have their own classes: warrior, rogue, mage, marksman, tank, and support. Mages and marksmen usually are long range, rogues, warriors, and tanks are usually melee, and supports usually consolidate healing and buffing. So knowing the attack or effect range of your characters can also help you determine your initial positioning. And you can also display who the enemies will target and who your heroes will target. That's the basics of the combat. I think it's simple enough to catch on to, especially if you just want to enjoy the game casually. I mean, they pretty much do the fighting for you. Being overleveled will make fights very easy, but if you put some thought into faction typing and actually work on the positioning a little bit, it will help you take on harder battles. I gotta say, there's something a bit ticklish about watching your tiny heroes duke it out by themselves, and I quite like the different team comps and arrangements you can come up with. But if you're looking for a game whose combat is fully immersive and packed with close-up action, with room for reflexes and motor skill expression, that's definitely not the experience you'll get here. Anyway, AFK Journey gives you a lot of combat modes that you unlock based on the AFK stage you're at. Boss challenges award you points based on how far you got. Honor Duels lets you challenge other players based on comparable power to improve your ranking. Arenas have a randomized aspect to it where you select a preset roster of characters to start with, but you can draw more characters, buffs, and items along the way. Arcane Labyrinth locks you into a team, but you choose which chambers to proceed to and which buffs you'll get from them. And then there's this last one that I haven't unlocked yet. But overall, I'm glad there's several modes to try out because I had more fun exploring these than going through the main story. Some have limited attempts in a day, which you'll want to max out for faster progression, but others are quite repeatable, and something you can spend a bit more time in the game for. Speaking of progression, let's check that out next. So when it comes to progression and resource collection, a major source of these will be your AFK stages. Aside from using it to unlock battle modes, you level up your progress here to increase the rewards you can get while you're AFK. So instead of a stamina system for farming resources, you're given this AFK time-gated system where you just let your stuff accumulate. You get a whole lot of stuff at the very start that can level your heroes to around 50 or 60 in the first few hours. I'm usually limited by these purple powders though, which I need every 10 levels for a character, and one of the easiest ways to get those are by using your AFK stages. Or you can whale, I guess. At least you can climb through those AFK stages quite fast. I kept running the stages on auto with level 70 characters, and it brought me all the way to stage 100, and honestly I could go further, and these are the resources I can farm over time at this level. Speaking of leveling, you only need to level up the slots of the party, then those levels can be shared or inherited by other heroes when you put them in the party. This means you need a lot less resources to level every character, which is a huge relief and gives you more freedom to try them out in battle ASAP. The equipment has a similar system where you only need to level up one set per class, then whenever you use someone from that class, they automatically use the set equipment. You get equipment from progression rewards and overworld loot, and there are chests that let you choose the class and item. There's some variations in the stats on the different pieces, so I'm not really sure how random some of them are, and there aren't any set bonuses that I can see. In general, you want to keep upgrading to those with higher levels and higher tiers, and it's not like you need to use stamina to grind them anyway, because again, no stamina. These equipment and character level systems are definitely a lot easier to learn, manage, and contend with, and the whole AFK rewards is basically a part of it being an idle game. The daily's gameplay loop can also be quite short, like I can fill my daily quest meter in less than 5 minutes, go through battle modes for about 10 or 15 minutes if I feel like it, level up stuff, and then climb more AFK stages. So it definitely doesn't ask a lot of your time if you're playing casually, and you can run most of it on auto anyway. Finally, let's talk about AFK Journey's gacha rates. To start up your gacha, you enter the mystical house, which, by the way, has your acquired characters walking around it. That is so cute! And again, wishing I could zoom in because I want to pet them. Anyway, let's take a look at the banners. I have 3 unlocked right now: Rate Up, All Hero Recruitment, and Epic Recruitment. All of them have an A rank guaranteed per 10 pull, then the S rank guarantee differs per banner. I'll lay them out here for you to look at. The rates and pities are lower than I'm used to, and the pulling currency isn't too difficult to come by for now when they're throwing a lot of freebies at you at this launch period. But to be completely honest, I don't have a lot of idle game experience to compare it to. Either way, I think the gacha rates are to make it easier to pull copies of characters to upgrade them, so I think the bigger question come late game is how dependent on character copies it will be. And to further help with that, the All Hero Recruitment and Epic Recruitment have a wishlist mechanic, which helps you narrow the pool of characters you can get since there's no single rate up on the non-rate up banners. And you can switch up your wishlist anytime, so use it to either build your copies of a character or to widen your roster. Of course, your roster doesn't start from nothing since you get A rank warrior Valen for free, and I think your first A rank pull is Faye, a support. Then I'm pretty sure you are guaranteed Xixia, an S rank, and an S rank support in your first few multis on the All Hero Recruitment banner. Also, this launch is giving a lot for free, over 40 heroes and 200 pulls, so you can quickly grow your collection and try out as many of them as possible. I honestly wasn't able to play long enough to gauge its FTP friendliness at high ranks and endgame, but the characters I've pulled without spending anything have easily gotten me through the story and early battle modes. And at this point, I think I'm encountering more of a level check than a character check. So all in all, what do I think of the game so far? I actually liked AFK Journey more than I expected. It's an idle game that I really can play idly, whether on mobile with one hand or in the background on PC as it's auto-battling. I wouldn't spend hours on it straight, and it's not inherently time-demanding, and you can make good progress even without thinking too hard in battle. I also like the variety of battle modes. It's visually pleasing, the characters are cute and fun, and there isn't anything that I hate about the game, but its world and story aren't intriguing enough for me that I see myself becoming super invested in continuing it. I think this is fine for a game that people can pick up casually and enjoy the feeling of passive rewards. I personally think that if I wanted a more intriguing and serious story setup with combat that is more action and involvement from the player, this isn't the game I'd go to for that. This is more the kind of thing I would suggest to someone looking for a game to idle with between work or during breaks, but not for like a mind-blowing transformative experience, if that makes sense. Although if you do get that out of here, then that's definitely a win. So as long as your expectations are set and you know what kind of game you'll potentially get into, I think there's a bunch to explore and enjoy from here. Anyway, what do you think so far? Comment down below. And if you're interested in getting the game, AFK Journey will have officially launched as of March 27 across various countries and regions. It's free to download on the App Store and Google Play for mobile and the AFK Journey official website for PC. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!